Hello, good morning. So this is our new topic for information management. This is introduction to SQL part introduction to SQL, and it focuses on SQL data manipulation commands. So if you could remember, the last module that we had was it was all about SQL data definition commands, okay? So it was about defining what kind of database, what are the attributes that you are going to make, what tables will you be using for saving and retrieving records. So for now, the data manipulation commands involves how will you manipulate, how will you play along with the records or the data that you have, or how will you build a particular report or a query report with the given records. Okay, so yan yung purpose ni data manipulation commands. In simple terms, this will help you do stuff like creating reports, generating reports, creating queries on it, specific reports actually, using particular commands. So let's move forward. So for basic SQL data manipulation commands, so let's remember this is only basic. It means na there are other commands under this category, but the basic includes select, insert, update, and then delete. So when you say select, it means you are retrieving something or you would want to present or display a particular record. When you say insert naman, you are adding a record to a particular table or to different tables, okay? When you say update naman, you are modifying a particular cell in the record that is inside the table, okay? And when you say delete naman, of course, it's synonymous to erasing a particular record. So let's move forward and then let's try to discuss all of them. Okay, let's start first with insert. This one is very common because all throughout our discussion from prelims up to this point, we always came across this one because it most of our examples involves inserting records before we can do anything about it, right? So when doing SQL manipulation, SQL data manipulation, we need to remember this term syntax, okay? Because usually ito yung error na lumalabas pag hindi correct yung ginagamit natin. So a syntax is something that will tell you what's the correct format or how will you execute the command properly. So pag syntax, ibig sabihin meron siyang exact format, and then you are only to use what they call this one, exact words, and then there will be some changes on the syntax. Okay, like for example, ito, you have it here, a simple syntax for insert into. Yung naka-bold na words, you have insert into and values, hindi po yan nagbabago. Ibig sabihin, yan po talaga yung gagamitin natin. Those with italicized words, it means this will be dependent on, for example, what's the name of your table, what's the name of your column, and of course, what are the values that you will be inserting. So in a certain syntax, meron kang format na hindi babaguhin, tapos you have also some words that you will be changing because it will be dependent on the name of the table, the name of the columns, and of course the values that you will be using. So for example, insert into, we know already na when you use insert into, you are adding new record or rows, diba? It could either be like you would want to insert one record or you would like to insert more than one record, diba? Pwede natin gawin yan. So an example for this one is insert into students, last name, section, values, Reyes, and IT 102. So if you notice, if we will try to compare the syntax and then the example, we can conclude that the students is our table name, last name and section is our column names, and the values, Reyes and IT 102 are the values to be inserted in our table students. Okay? So this one is an example of inserting a record. Iba naman yung format natin if you would want to insert more than one record. Okay? Don't worry, we will have a demonstration on that one on our next meeting. Okay, I hope you understood that one. Next, we also have it here. If a while ago, we have specified which columns will we insert the records. This one naman, we have specified na lahat ng columns will be included. Okay, lahat ng columns is gagamitin or paglalagyan natin ng values. So, same lang din, we have our syntax and we have our example. So, for our syntax, we have it here. Insert into the table name and then the following values and then the values. So, if we will try to compare it a while ago, yung kanina, we declared also the table name, but then we specified the column name. Dito, we specified only the table name, but we did not include the column name. So, it means na lahat ng columns on that table should have a specific record, or not record, but value per record. So, ang ibig kong sabihin is that, for example, if you have 4 columns, it would also mean na yung values na dapat mong i-declare on this area, this part here, should be 4 din. So, in this example, we can conclude na the students have only 2 columns kasi yung nilagay lang dito na example is that Reyes and IT 102. Sir, what will happen if the number of columns did not match the number of data na hindi natin will not match the number of data that we will insert? The error that will be provided with our what they call this one, with our platform is that yung sasabihin niya is error, the number of columns did not match with the number of data that you would want to insert. Okay, so ibig sabihin, let's remember, if this one is insert into tapos all columns, kinakailangan nyo po na i-declare kung ilang columns po yung nasa table, yan din po yung number of data na i-insert nyo per record. Okay, I hope that is clear. So, 4 columns for 4 data per record. Hindi po pwede na 4 columns yung nasa students tapos tatlo lang yung i-declare mo na values per record. Not unless you will have it like null, di ba? Just like what we did last time, di ba? Okay. Next, we have the select. So again, select means if inserting means saving data or record in a table, selecting naman is retrieving. So ito yung counterpart. Ibig sabihin, when you do select, you are to get records on a particular table and then you will present it. Okay? That's why it has this definition na it retrieves values of all rows or a subset of rows in a table. Ibig sabihin, there will be times na you can present all of the columns in the table, or anong ibig sabihin yan? Like for example, you could also have it like you specify only the columns that you would want to present. Okay? So for example, let's have first the syntax. Just like insert into, si select is meron din siyang syntax. So ito, select columns from table name. Ibig sabihin, select and from or the constant. The columns and the table name are the ones that are considered to be dynamic. Okay? So we have it here. Select last name section from students. This means na ipapakita lang niya si last name tapos si section na column na nanggagaling or retrieve from the table students. Okay? Yung isa naman is that you would want to present all of the columns. So you don't need to name all of them. You will just use the symbol asterisk. Again, if you would want to present all the columns in the table, what you will do is that you will use asterisk instead of naming all of the columns. So for example, select all, diba? Asterisk will be read as all. Select all from students. This means na lahat ng records or lahat ng columns ni students is ipapakita ninyo. Okay? So again, when you say select, it means ipapakita nyo yung mga records, either specified columns or lahat ng columns on that table. I hope I'm clear on that one. Next, we have naman distinct. Distinct is an operator, an SQL operator, used with select. So, ibig sabihin, it should be partnered with select before you could use distinct. This one is used to retrieve unique values from columns in a table. So, for example, you would want to retrieve a non-repeating value, okay? you would want to identify, like this particular column has repeating values, and you would want a distinct value, like ano yung, although they have a repeating values, like for example, yung last name na Roa, like it was used 5 times, and you would want to know, like for example, you have, I'll just give you an example na medyo madali ha. Like for example, the last name Roa, the last name Benedictus, and then the last name Buen are used in a particular record 15 times, okay? And then when you use select distinct, if you will use select distinct on that particular column, yung ipapakita lang niya na result is tatlo. You have Roa, Benedictus, and Buen, okay? So no matter how many times you use that particular value, pag ginamitan na yan ng distinct, they will compress it into one value. Okay? Yan yung kumbaga simplest explanation. So you use select distinct if you would want to retrieve unique values on a particular column. Again, it's only used in a column, not in a record. Okay? So yung syntax niya, you have it here, select distinct columns from table name. So select distinct and from are the constant or the static. The columns and then the table name are the dynamic. Okay? So, sir, can we use select distinct on multiple columns? Yes, pwede po tayong gumamit ng ganun. So for our example, you have it here. Select distinct section from students. So it means na it will provide you with a list of sections used in this particular table, students. Okay? Yun. Usually distinct is used when you have a lot of records and you would want to determine, like, there are repeating values and I would want those, I would want to know the values na used on this particular column lang. Diba? Just like what I have given you an example, yung mga last name. Diba? Okay. This one, we have it here. Where is an SQL operator? Ibig sabihin, ginagamit siya in a select query or in a select command. So this one is an option. Ibig sabihin, it's not required, not unless the situation calls for it. An option used with select to filter rows of data based on provided criteria. So when we say filter, it means you are only to present a specific records based on a particular particular condition or criteria. So we have here the syntax. The basic select, tapos after the table name, you will use the where clause. So the where clause includes a condition. So condition involves either greater than or equal, less than or less than equal, tapos not equal. Those are example of operators used in a where clause. So we have it here an example. Select all from students where section is equal to IT 101. So if you notice it here, this one is a simple select, right? Select all from students is a simple select. We put where section is equals to IT 101 as our condition. It means na I will present all the records whose section is equivalent to IT 101, di ba? Na-filter na siya. So yung first statement, kung hanggang dito lang tayo, ipapakita mo lahat ng records ng students. Pero you have here the condition. Pero gusto ko lang makita yung sections na yung equivalent niya is IT 101. So yun lang yung records na may papakita niya. This one is an example of a where condition wherein it uses a variable character or varchar kumbaga. And then you also have it here. Another example for where clause wherein it uses numeric fields or numeric value. So select all from students. Okay? Ipapakita niya daw lahat ng records ng students. Pero may condition tayo. Na yung edad lang niya is greater than or equal to 18. Usually, where is really a big help when you would want to generate a specific report or query based on a given table. Okay? So it will provide you with a filter. Yan yung ibig sabihin niya. Okay? So in this example, it will present all the records of students whose age is greater than or equal to 18. Okay? So always remember lang na yung syntax or yung where na clause will be included only after the table name. Okay? Hindi siya pwedeng nasa unahan, hindi siya pwedeng nasa gitna, but rather it will always be at the last part after the table name. I hope I'm clear on that one. Next, you also have it here is null. Is null is actually used for checking a particular field, whether it's empty or not. So, for example, you have it here, not for example, but the syntax for using it, di ba? Usually kasi we cannot guarantee na most of the users will properly or correctly fill out the forms we provided, di ba? Sometimes that's why we have we put some constraints on creating web forms. Like for example, ano yung example ng constraints? Like for example, this field is required. Sometimes it's optional, di ba? And then sometimes the user would want it optional, but then later on they would want to have it required. So this one will determine or will help you to generate those kind of reports. So we have it here, the syntax. Select columns from table name where column is null. So if you notice, the where, diba? We included the where clause because we specified or we would want man to check. So it would mean na it will provide or it needs a criteria to select these records. I can select these records but with this particular criteria. So where column is null. So an example for this one is select last name section from students where section is null. So ibig sabihin, ipapakita niya yung last name tapos section, tapos yung ipapakita lang niya is yung section na walang laman. Okay? So that's an example. Next, ito, like. Usually like is used for searching. It could either be a simple search or an advanced search. So the syntax for this one is an operator used with where to determine whether a value matches a given string pattern. Okay? So same lang din. It will be using the where condition kasi nga you are to match a certain string pattern. So yung syntax niya is something like this one. Select columns from table name where column-like pattern. Okay? So yung mga naka-bold, these are the constants, and then yung mga naka-italicize are the ones we considered as dynamic or pwedeng mabago or ma-change. Now, we have here wildcards. When you say wildcards, these are different formats on how you will be creating the pattern. So for example, the percent symbol represents 0, 1, or multiple characters. The symbol underscore represents a single character. So if you will put that one into the context of a select query, you will have an example something like this. Select all from students where last name, like, you have it here. This one is in a, what do you call this one? In a variable character na format. That's why it has an apostrophe. You have it here, a quote, a single quote, and a single end quote at the last one. This means na you are to select, okay? You are to, let's try to figure it out later if we are correct. On my understanding, this one means you are to select all students whose last name starts with letter A. Okay? So, I will present or I will show you something. This one is from W3 schools. This one is my reference when whenever I would want to use the like, SQL like in retrieving or in searching for a particular record on a table. So, you could also browse this one. So, for example, ito. If you notice, where customer name, diba? Ito yung condition niya, like, okay? Letter A, you have it here. Okay, pwedeng iba-ibang letters ito ha. You have it here. For example, B or A or C. Kayo nang bahala. Okay, for example, find any values that starts with letter A. Okay, ayan no. Diba? Ayan. So, ibig sabihin, pag ganito yung format ng like nyo, you are searching for a particular record on a table. A particular record on a table, specifically on a column where the record starts with letter A, di ba? Dito naman, pag nauna yung percent sign tapos yung character, it means it is looking for a particular record on a specific column na yung ending niya or yung end niya is letter A. Okay? If you have it naman, like for example, you have both percent sign both on the start and the beginning, it means in any position, like for example, you have it here, or. So I will be looking for a record on a specific column na yung word is meron siyang OR na like it matches the OR na letter combination. Okay? Tapos you have it here. Okay, mali tayo kanina. Ang ibig sabihin pala ng underscore dito is that you have it here. If you came across an underscore and then it start underscore a single character and then a percentage, it means like it finds any values that have R in the second position. Like for example, array. So that will be like, diba, it has an R in the it has an R on the second position of the word. So yun yung ipapakita niya. And then you also have at here another string pattern, like the character, and then the second one is the underscore sign and then the percentage sign. This means that it finds any values that starts with A and are at least 2 characters in length. Ibig sabihin, it will only provide you with answers if the word starts with letter A tapos it's more than 2 letters. Okay? At least man. Not more, at least, not more than, but at least 2 or more letters. Ito naman, you have it here. Finds any values that starts with letter A. If you notice, hindi sila magkasing haba, di ba? This one is a single underscore. Ito naman, you have a double underscore. Pag double underscore, it means na any word on that particular column that starts with letter A and are at least 3 characters in length. Ibig sabihin, it should be 3 or more characters yung word na ipapakita niya. Then you also have it here. another string pattern. This one, ito, diba, A%O. This means that it finds any values that start with A and ends with O. Okay? So any word that starts with letter A and ends with letter O, yan yung ipapakita niya. So itong string pattern na to, these are just example. These are the basic. Then you could actually create your own. For example, ito, but you can even add more on this one. Yung may underscore, okay? So more of this one during our demonstration. Okay. I hope I'm clear with that one. Next, pag in naman, okay. Diba remember, when you use the, what they call this one, the where clause is that you are only given with, we are not restricted, but basically, isang condition lang. Kumbaga, we are taught in the previous natin na slides na a where should have only one condition. Pero actually, you can have multiple if you know how to do yung logic gates bitaw, yung and, or, and then not. Pwede kang maglagay ng more than one condition. So, to answer that kind of problem or confusion, they created SQL in. So, for example, diba, a single where condition could only cater one criteria. Diba? One criteria only. So, to answer that one, gumawa sila ng SQL in. So, SQL in is an operator used with select and where to check whether a value matches any within the given list. So, for example, you have it here. Yung syntax niya is para din siyang simple select na may where condition pero in lang yung ginagamit niya. Okay? You have it here. You select the columns from the table where a particular column matches this particular values. So an example, select all from students where section in is IT 101, IT 102, IT 103. Diba we remember, if you could still remember, yung simple select and where natin, we only declare one condition. But within, you can provide one condition but with multiple criteria. At ano yung mga criteria na sinasabi ko? Itong IT 101, IT 102, tapos IT 103. Diba? So, any records that will match 101, 102, 103, ipapakita niya po. Okay? I hope I'm clear with that one. Again, let's try to compare. A simple select with a where condition, provides you with a condition with a single criteria. Pag sa in naman is that it will provide you or it will let you use a single select with a where condition pero with multiple criteria. Okay? Next, you have naman between. Usually, this one is, between is also another SQL operator that is used to check whether a value matches a specific range. Okay? So you have it here, the syntax. You are to select a column from a table again where the column is between two values. Okay? And it uses the operator and, diba? The logical operator and. So value 1 and value 2. In please note this one na there are some database management tools na they will allow you to use the word and talaga, or they would prefer or they will have a strict format system na yung and will be represented by the and na symbol. Okay, kindly take note of that one. So we have it here. Example, select all from students where age is between 13 and 15. So ibig sabihin, lahat ng students na yung edad is 13, 14, and 15. Kasi yan yung range niya, di ba? 13, 14, and 15. So, it will be presented or it will be displayed on your console. Okay? So again, pag gagamit tayo ng between, you should provide range. Okay. Yung question na I always receive with this one is that, sir, does it provide you or does SQL allow you to provide range that is not in numeric value? As based on my experience, I haven't tried it, but most usually talaga they what they call this one, they prefer, not they prefer, but they are to use or you are required to use between if it's in numeric. Kumbaga, you are to use range or between, the SQL between with a numerical range. I seldom or I haven't tried the character na range, diba? So let's stick with that example. Numerical range muna tayo. Okay? Next, you also have it here, order by. Diba, if you could still remember, one of the basic purpose why we have database management tools is that for us to arrange, diba? To arrange the data or the records that we have. So, order by is used to either sort or arrange the records either ascending or descending order. If you will try to remember, when you say ascending, it means smallest to largest, A to Z. Pag descending naman, it's the counterpart naman, or, diba? So, pag descending, you have the largest to smallest or Z to A. Okay? So, let's remember the syntax. Kasi usually, si order by, dito nagkakamali yung iba because yung syntax is hindi nila masyadong, what they call this one, like it's either may nakalimutan or hindi tama yung pagkakalagay. So, for example, you have it here. Select columns from table name order by columns. So, if you notice, sir, saan namin ilalagay yung particular order? You will put it after the last column na pagbabasihan nyo ng order. Okay? So, in this syntax, you will notice na yung particular table daw will be sort out based on this column. So, yung reference na column is yung last column na na-mention. Okay? That is after the order by syntax. Okay, for example, ito. Select all from students order by last name. Sir, tama po ba ito? Yes, tama po ito. If it's not declared whether ascending or descending, automatically or by default, yung ibibigay sa atin is yung ascending order. Okay? If it's not declared, it will give you a default report na ascending. Ibig sabihin, if you will not put a particular order, yan yung gagamitin niya or yan yung makukuha ninyo. So let's be reminded, even if it's default, I think I could still remember you telling na even if it's not what they call this one declared, you just put it so that you will not be what they call this one, you will not be confused later on when you go back from, kumbaga pagbabalikan mo yan, like you would say, ano ba tong report na ginagawa ko? Is it in ascending or descending order? So to answer that one, just write it even if you would want to have it ascending. Okay? You have it here. Ayan o. Select all from students order by last name descending. So pag na-declare natin na DESC, we will not write the whole descending word. We'll only use DESC. Pag DESC, it means na you are to sort the records of the students in records of the students based on their last name, tapos in descending order. Ibig sabihin, mauuna po si letter Z, tapos pababang letter A. Okay? Yan po yung ano niya. Yan po yung what do you call this one? How to use descending and ascending order. Okay? Next, you have the update. Again, pag update naman, we are to modify existing records in a table. Ibig sabihin, yung requirement niya is that kinakailangan yung records na gusto mong i-edit is nasa table na. Hindi siya po pwedeng i-insert mo lang siya. Okay? You are to do insert before you do an update. Okay, please be reminded na in doing an update, it's really recommended to practice the where clause. That's why nga inuna yung where clause para you will better utilize update. Kasi if you will not include if you will not include the where clause on an update query, yung lahat ng columns na na-specify mo or yung lahat ng update na gusto mong mangyari on one record only is mangyayari sa lahat ng records. Okay? Yan yung yan yung big benefit ni where clause. The where clause specifies the record onto which you would want to do an update. Okay? So for example, ito. This one is the syntax for updating a specific record in the table. So update, table name, set column 1 equals to particular value, where condition is equivalent to this one. So the where condition now will be the one to filter out kung ano yung record na gusto mong i-update. Okay? So you have it here. Update students set section equals IT 202 and 'di ba yung comma 'di ba? Hindi lang yung section ang gusto niyang i-update but as well as the status. You have section IT 202 tapos status is equivalent to irregular. So what if hanggang dyan lang yung i-execute ko? So if it's only until this part yung sa irregular, it means na lahat ng records ng students, whether it be kumbaga wala siyang basihan. Since wala tayong where clause, ibig sabihin lahat ng records is i-update niya. Like lahat ng students magkakaroon ng section na 202, lahat ng students magkakaroon ng status na irregular, which is wrong, di ba? So that's why this is where the where condition will jump into the situation. So pag maglalagay tayo ng where clause, you will specify a condition and then a criteria. So for example, where student ID is equivalent to 2018-10013. Ibig sabihin, itong particular record lang ang kanyang i-modify, hindi lahat ng records. So it means na the where clause helps you specify the record that you would want to update on a particular table. So please remember to use properly the where, the where clause. Sir, is there any way to do a control Z after doing the update? Wala po tayong ganyan sa data manipulation. Okay? Not unless you will do your advance and then you would do like the triggers, pero hindi pa tayo dyan. Okay? So please practice using where properly. Next, you have it here. The last one is the delete. Same lang din siya. Actually, they have the same concept. Si delete lang is that, di ba si update, you'll just modify, but the record will exist. Si delete naman, you will modify the table kasi you are deleting a record. Any change in the table means it's also a modification of the table, di ba? Yung kaso nga lang, yung sa delete is that you are trying to erase a particular record. Sir, can I erase values per column? Hindi po siya nagwo-work ng ganyan. Si delete po works per record, hindi po siya per column. Okay? So per row po siya. So the syntax is something like this. Delete from is a constant, table name is a static not dynamic pala. Where is a constant, same goes with the condition. The condition is a dynamic one. So for example, you would say, delete from students. Sir, paano kung hanggang dyan lang po yung i-execute ko? It means na you are deleting all the records. Diba? You have it here. To delete all records, execute this kind of query. Delete from students. Okay? Pero, pag nilagyan mo ng where clause, you have it here, where student ID 2018-10013, yung particular record lang yan, na yan, ang kanyang i-delete. The rest will remain or stay in the table. Okay? So again, using update and delete, you need to be very careful because remember, what they call this one, most of the database management tools that we have right now, even in the market, are using CLI. Yung command line interface bitaw, yan yung usual na ginagamit nila. Ibig sabihin, wala siyang interface na, are you sure you would want to delete or update this record? Wala po tayong ganyan. Especially with the platform na we are using, yung SWAMP, wala po siyang ganyan. Okay? So, whenever you would use update and delete, make sure to include a proper and a correct where clause. Okay? I hope I'm understood. So, I will be, what they call this one? I will be saving this one and then let's have our demonstration by next week. So, for me to confirm that you have went through all the things that I've discussed, kindly comment down below your name and then make sure after the name is that you will have a question. Okay? Bawal po yung paulit-ulit na question for you to be, kumbaga, for me to provide you with an attendance and a score for this session. Okay? So, thank you so much and then see you next week.